Good evening, everyone. Buenas noches. Thank you for joining us. My name is Daphne Rizari. I'm the founder and president of the Long Island Latino Teachers Association, better known as LILTA. And on behalf of LILTA, I welcome each of you to this webinar on challenges and opportunities of banning or restricting cell phones in school.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Salgado. I'm LILTA's second vice president. Thank you for being here tonight.
And we both will co-moderate this webinar. So for those of you who might not be familiar with what is LILTA, we are a not-for-profit organization founded in 2006. Our mission is to increase graduation rates and higher education enrollment, retention, and completion. We work within the educational system and with school communities to address the common risk factors that impact the success of our Latino students and other underserved students population. And the goals for tonight are primarily two. We wish to inform our school communities on what's currently included on the bell-to-bell proposal as part of the New York State budget. And we also want to share the challenges and opportunities this proposal presents to our school communities.
This is the agenda for tonight. Tonight we'll be discussing, as Daphne just said, the challenges of banning and restricting cell phones in schools, but as well as the importance, benefits, and the opportunities. Each panelist will have a few minutes to share information about the topic, and then we'll make sure at the end we have some time for a Q&A session. These are just some norms for tonight's webinar. All participants will be muted during our session, and this webinar is being recorded. For privacy reasons, please don't share the name of your school district of where you work. And then if you have a question, take an opportunity to use the Q&A box.
Great. So tonight we have wonderful panelists with us. As you know, the New York State budget passed on April 28th, and the final agreement of $254.3 billion was passed on May 10th by lawmakers. New York is the largest K-12 state in the nation with a bell-to-bell ban. And this budget includes $13.5 million allocated for the implementation of banning or restricting the use of phones in schools during the day, including study halls and lunch. Students will be banned from using smartphones, smartwatches, and tablets in schools. And tonight, to discuss the issue of what challenges and what opportunities this presents for our students and our school communities is Maria Fernandez, who will be joining us shortly. Maria is a Deputy Secretary of Education for New York State for our Governor Kathy Hochul. Also with us is Melinda Person. She is the New York State United Teachers President, the union of 700,000 union members. Also with us, Joseph Salomon, founder and executive director of the Long Island Coalition Anti-Bullying. Christine Waters, NAACP, New York State Conference Education Chair. Jerry Coleman, Autumn, Suffolk Region PTA Executive Committee member and also a Brentwood parent advocate. And Michelle Connor, a high school science teacher, former instructional team lead, and someone who had the opportunity to implement a ban some time ago. So welcome each of you. And thank you for the generosity with your time and to be with us. And let's begin the conversation. Before that, I just want to also remind you, we have a survey with about 5 questions. It's not a long survey. If you could please scan and answer the questions, that will be very helpful. The results will be shared at the end of the webinar.
I will just add that I've linked the survey into the chat as well for your convenience.
Thank you, Nicole. So at this time, let's begin our conversation. And each panelist, based on your professional role, you will have about 4 to 5 minutes to share information on the importance, the benefits, the opportunities of the bell-to-bell proposal, and what will this mean to the academic success and the well-being of all students? So the question posed is, what specific problems is this law trying to solve, and how would banning cell phones address them? We will start
Yes,
from
thank
your
you.
perspective.
Thank you for inviting me. As the education chair for the NAACP New York State Conference, we agreed that cell phones have been a source uh, of real problems that have been happening. Our first responsibility is safety in our schools, and also that we set up a culture and a climate where the optimal learning can take place. And in 2012, the Dignity for All Students Act was passed, which created codes of conduct. And our main reason why at first we did not support this bill was because we did not want it to be yet another reason to suspend our children in school districts where they still are having zero tolerance policies, and there just is no consistency from one district to another. Uh, and we were concerned that there are children who do use the cell phone properly, but the great majority of problems are arising because of the ability to text from one to another, and the fact that predators from outside, any stranger, can get a hold of your child in school by sending them a message. That we needed to be able to put a stop to that, because it would not only is it a distraction between students, but it's also created anxiety. Well, parents give their children a cell phone, they pay the bill, and they're thinking that their child is using it and they're responsible for using it. But the other children who are not as responsible are creating more anxiety. They're arranging for confrontations, as Maria said, and they're spreading gossip. Um, uh, Most of us are old enough to remember that you used to pass notes. Well, now they're passing um, uh, text messages and taking inappropriate pictures of not just the students, but also teachers. And there's always some sort of confrontation that ends up happening as to, again, as Joe just said, who's going to be responsible for either taking the phone away from them when they're using it improperly, or storing them. There's always a problem. Are they calling their parents? There's always some sort of thing that ends up happening that creates a problem. And administrators have been ending up having to spend inordinate amounts of time either talking to the children or talking to the parents. And it escalates into fights, which then can sometimes end up in superintendent's hearings. And all of this affects their mental health and creates even more anxiety. Um, so uh, the thing that made us realize that this wasn't just going to be another policy coming out from the state is that were not just leaving it up to put the policy out without the funding behind it that needs the equipment to be able to store the phones and have some consistency from one school to another. So the NAACP right now is trying to put together committees to go to their school districts and have the conversation about the plan for your particular school. Whereas it again, in some schools, it's already in the codes of conduct, but the bill now has in its language that they cannot use the cell phone as a reason to suspend the children. So uh, you need to then go to your district, have the conversation, and the plan does not have to be in place until we're opening up for September of 2025. So I'm encouraging everyone to go to your district, get onto the committee that's coming up with this plan, so that any concerns that you have about your particular school district, you can bring that up with them and be able to trust that that they'll be able to be flexible. So we are very much for um, making sure that this happens. I hope that we can have more participation with our parents to do that.
Thank you. And yes, parents are a key in this conversation and in the enforcement. Christine, can this proposal disproportionately affect certain groups of students, such as those who rely on their phones for translation, medical, or family communication? I think we touched on that, but if you want to expand,
Sure.
please.
Well, children who have diabetes, for example, uh, will, and they have one of those Dexcom monitors, that will be part of the exceptions, that they will be able to still monitor their numbers. As Joe was saying, parents are key in terms of their voices, but the students themselves also need to be part of those committees that are discussing this. So because we believe in there being nothing about us without us. And there are other options for translation besides using your cell phone. For example, there are Bluetooth purchase translation devices like an earbud that can be used. Uh, they're not costing as much, but again, your particular district can sit and talk about being able to purchase those for the children who need them, so that they don't have to use the cell phone for the translation. Um, there are children who absolutely need assistive devices. For example, it may be in their IEP that they needed to need to be enlarged. So there are exceptions for those things as well. Um, the there are schools who will opt to be able to put their phones into pouches, and others will on their committee may decide that they want to just have a storage place where the children will be able to pick them up. What we need to be able to do on our committees is we need to be able to find out what the best practices are. So there will be professional development available to be able to share those best practices. And again, parents, students, and communities need to be on the committees that are making these decisions, and not necessarily the students who have been on the student council, for example, but the children who absolutely need to be able to not be anxious about what's happening in this political climate, for example. There are parents who are trying to stay in contact with their parents because of what's happening in our communities. But again, there are ways to be able to have in your project save contact emergency notifications, and also providing a working number, a working cell phone number to the district to be able to get messages to your child or forward messages to your child, and some sort of an emergency alert system as well. All of these things are things that we need to be able to be on those committees to discuss and make adjustments. Again, some teachers use their cell phones to respond to questions on a test, for example. Those are going to be things that, as Melinda was saying, the teachers will be able to sit down and discuss. So this I see as an opportunity for everyone to be in the same room together to solve the problem, and to come up with a plan that works for you, and be able to again share best practices and be flexible and update it as needed.
Thank you, Christine.
Medical conditions would be part of having to have a 504 committee, a meeting, so that would be something that you would be discussing with that team in your building. Maria, did you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, so the use of the phone is not just anyone who has a medical condition. It's a medical condition that requires the phone for monitoring. So I'm not sure in that particular case, and I apologize, I'm not a doctor, why a student with asthma would need to have their cell phone.
Thank you very much. Chris?
Yes, I think that we really have to thank our governor and Maria for listening to our families and our parents and our teachers and the community on these issues. And it's all about safety and all about being able to make sure the culture and the climate have our children refocused on learning, and which is why they're there, and the socialization that they need to be able to support each other, and have a real school experience. And if you're unsure as to how to get involved with the committees, there are 57 NAACP branches throughout New York State. Each one of them has an education committee, and they all pretty much have a youth and college division. So your students can then also get involved with being part of these committees. And we love that we're able to work with our teachers, our teacher centers, our parents, other members of our community, to be able to help this communication keep going. So we need to be able to include the voices of our children and make sure that we don't just leave it at this plan that we have this year, but that we update it as we're going forward so that we have something that actually works in our schools for our children. And remember, just put the children first.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you to all the panelists. From your final thoughts, I get that this ban will provide us with engagement, with protection, with safety, will give a voice to our school community so then they can be involved. They could have the courage to make the changes that are necessary and the partnership that are needed. And as Melinda said, we'll give back childhood to our kids, right? Let's let them be kids again. So with that said, on behalf of Lilta, mil gracias for your participation. I appreciate your generosity with time and your commitment to keeping our communities informed and engaged in the academic success and well-being of all children. So till next year, right, Nicole, when we'll announce our webinars for the next school year. This is our final. Thank you so much.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.